Most piano learning methods for adults who are starting from scratch, they don't work because either one, they're so focused on the theory and just giving a bunch of information right up front that you'll feel bored or overwhelmed, or two, they start out with simple songs that are children's songs and you don't want to be stuck playing those. Hey, if you're new here, I'm Brianne and I teach the piano in a way that skips the boring beginner lessons and the children's songs and gets you motivated and excited to play songs that you actually like on the piano in a fun and simple way. Now this video is quite different from my other videos because usually I'm at the piano showing you how to play something, but today's video is a little bit different. I wanted it to be a little bit more laid back and just share with you the exact steps to take if you're an adult and you want to get started playing the piano, but you don't quite know where to start. So grab your drink and let's chat. Okay, first things first, you need a piano or keyboard in order to get started playing. Now, don't overcomplicate this step because there are a ton of options. So if you're like most people, you've probably Googled like good beginner piano keyboards, or you've probably looked on Amazon. And I just wanna make this step so much easier for you and tell you that it really doesn't matter what piano or keyboard you get started on. Like you're not gonna mess up your piano experience if you buy the wrong keyboard. Because guess what? You can always upgrade it later once you know that you're gonna stick with it and that you enjoy it. With that being said, hopefully you can breathe a sigh of relief, but there are two ideal things that you wanna look for. You don't have to have these, but in a perfect world, you would be able to find a piano or a keyboard that has these two things. First one is 88 keys, because this is a full set. So you're never going to be running out of keys, like if you have a song where you're playing up really high or really low. So it's best to start with something that has 88 keys. The second ideal thing to look for is weighted keys, because this is gonna feel the most like a real piano. There are a lot of keyboards out there that are like semi-weighted, and that's okay to start out on if that's the only option that you have. But ideally you want something with weighted keys just so that you can get used to what a real piano feels like right from the beginning. Now, depending on what your budget is, my absolute favorite place to find keyboards or pianos for beginners is Facebook Marketplace, because you can often find something great to get started on at a really reasonable price. I might be slightly biased because it's where I found my piano several years ago. I paid $100 for it. It's awesome. I'm still using it. I'll probably upgrade eventually, but for what it is, I'm so glad that I found it and I didn't have to pay full price for it. If you have a slightly bigger budget and you just want to buy something new from the beginning, I'm going to put a couple good recommendations that you can get off of Amazon. They include 88 keys and they're weighted, so you can go check those out afterwards. Once you have your piano or keyboard, then step two is to schedule your piano time. Now, historically, when people think about learning the piano, they think about like all the hours and time you're going to have to invest into learning and practicing, but that's just not true. I mean, yeah, if you're planning on like becoming a professional piano player, then you probably should practice a couple of hours a day. But if you're just playing for fun as a hobby, this should be something that you really enjoy. This shouldn't be something that has to take you a ton of time every week in order to learn. There's a way to practice and play the piano in a way that feels fun and motivating and doesn't have to take up a ton of time. Now, I'm going to share with you a sample practice template that I like to use, but before I do, I think it's really important to know that the amount of time that you spend practicing is not as important as the consistency of how often you play. But what happens with consistency is it actually helps to make things feel easier. It helps to build that momentum so that when we sit down to play, it doesn't feel like we're having to relearn everything that we've learned in the past, because that can be really frustrating, right? However you structure your piano time or your practice time, make sure that it's consistent. It can literally be 5 minutes a day. If you stay consistent with that, things will start to feel easier, you'll start to feel progress, and you'll start to just feel more motivated to play because things start to feel easier. Okay, so the template that I like to use is 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week. You can totally make that happen even if you have a super busy schedule, and you'll definitely be able to see results even with that short amount of time, 3 times a week. I don't know if you noticed that I said piano time. We tend to think about practicing as hard work that we have to do. We have to sit down, we have to work at it. But when we call it piano time, we can use our scheduled piano time for anything piano related. So we could use it for researching songs that we want to play, recording ourselves playing to track our progress, even just sitting down and watching or listening to other piano players play, just to gain some motivation and some inspiration to fuel us along as we're we're learning. All those things are just as important as practicing because they keep the whole experience of learning the piano something that's fun and something that we look forward to. And guess what? When something's fun and we look forward to it, we are so much more likely to do it and stay consistent with it than if it's just something where we have to like work hard at it every time. So once you've got your piano or keyboard, you've scheduled your piano time. Now it's time for step 3, which is the last step. And this is where you're going to choose one method of learning the piano and stick with it for at least 30 days. So when you're first learning how to play the piano, there's a lot of information and everybody's going to tell you something a little bit different, like focus on this and do this and do this, right? It can feel overwhelming to have to weed through all of that on your own. And so what you really need when you're first getting started is a plan or a method, like a step-by-step, like do this first and then do this and then do this, because that is really going to lead you on the pathway to progress instead of just trying to learn random things and like put them together. Don't do that because you'll feel overwhelmed and you probably won't be happy with your progress. When you're picking a method, what you want to keep in mind is what your goal is in learning the piano. Are you someone who just wants to play for fun? You would like to be able to sit down and play a few songs? Or are you somebody who, wants to be able to play classical music and you want to be able to understand like all the theory and technique about playing? Your avenues for learning are probably going to be a little bit different based on what your goals are. So really think about choosing a method that aligns with your goals and where you want to go. Because a lot of the adult beginner books that have like a bunch of theory and information right at the beginning, their goal is oftentimes to give you a really well-rounded understanding of theory so that you can go on to become a professional musician. So if that's your goal, great. But if that's not your goal, then you don't necessarily need to learn all of that theory right from the beginning in order to start playing music. In fact, it could actually deter you because you're trying to figure this all out and understand it, and you're not actually getting to just play the piano, which is why you started in the first place, right? Now, if you've made it this far and you're like, I'm ready to start playing the piano already, then I've got a free ebook on how to get started playing your first 3 songs on the piano. I'll introduce you to the pattern and the layout of the keys, and then I'll help you start playing 3 songs. Now, these songs are short, fun, simple, and they aren't kid songs. So I think you're really gonna enjoy playing them. I know how overwhelming it can be to start something brand new and just feel like, what am I even doing? But I just want you to know you can totally do this, and I'm here to help you and support you along the way.